Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
So how would you like to achieve your first million in sales? And today we have a special guest from Utah connecting Spencer. Spencer,
That's
can
right.
you introduce yourself and the name of your company?
Yeah, my name is Spencer Lowe. I founded a company called Solved.Cloud, and we help other businesses, especially SaaS-based businesses, with Salesforce.com and generative AI. So we're software consultants that take powerful software and make it easy for businesses to be able to leverage that and use that to grow.
Okay, so Spencer, tell us a little bit more how you decided to become a tech entrepreneur in the first place. Are you a software developer?
I did development for a few years, but I was in college at the time actually getting a degree in information systems management. And I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur at some point based on some things from my childhood. And so I decided, I want to go get an internship at a company that really allows you to grow, really allows you to get ahead. Because a lot of internships, you just do the internship, and then when you're done, they give you the same offer they give everyone else. And I didn't like that. So I was looking for kind of an entrepreneurial organization. And I found one, and they were actually doing Salesforce consulting. And so when I met with their CEO, I said, this is the money I want to make. And this is, what I want to do when I graduate. And instead of saying, oh, that's unreasonable, he said, great, here's how you do it. This is the money you need to make me. This is what it looks like. And I thought, all right, this is going to be a great mentor. So I didn't really care what business was in. I just knew that I wanted to use technology and have the type of entrepreneurial environment to grow. And he gave that to me. And so that's really what attracted me first into this space.
And the entrepreneurial vibe, where does it come? Is it there are more entrepreneurs, more tech entrepreneurs in your family, maybe a friend? You read a book?
Some of all of those things. I think the biggest factor for me was that my dad, growing up, he was in the military, and he lived his whole life as a really great provider, very stable, was very focused on providing a stable income for his family, was very, very smart and accomplished, had several degrees that he got while he was in the military. And when he got out of the military, he got into private hospital administration. And he took this job, and they hired a consultant to come work with him to train him on his job because it was kind of a unique role. And the consultant, after 2 weeks of training him, said, you're better than me at some things. If you want, you can join me and you can come into business with me and start your own consulting practice.
Oh, wow.
My dad said, it seems like a good opportunity, but there's a nice pension here. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to take the safe route. So he stayed there, and for about 9 years was working there. And then a new CEO came in and said, oh, we got to do cost cuts. And so he decided to lay my dad off just before he got to the really good tier of pension at 10 years. Wow. And so spent all that time, and it didn't turn out to be as safe as he thought it was. And so he said, well, now that I don't have that option, let me go talk to this guy and see if he'd be willing to let me go into business with him still. And he said yes. So my dad started his own consulting practice at that point. And at this point, he's in his mid-50s. So he's pretty deep into his career. And he starts this business, and it goes better than he could have imagined, and ends up 4 or 5xing the income of the family. And our whole lifestyle shifted. And I thought, man, that's the key. Like, he did all this stuff and worked so hard for so many years for other people, and I was just the last kid in the house, and I watched how our life changed when he started his own business. And I thought, that's something I want to do, and I want to hopefully do it sooner than 55. I want to move that hopefully a little earlier.
Yeah, I'm glad, Spencer, that because when you are young, like you are very talented, right? It's very easy to corporate to grab you, yeah, and they make sure they make you comfortable, yeah. So they pay you a little bit of good money. They try to give you a month's holiday, maybe a little bit more to keep you happy, yeah. And then they want you to do something very specific for them, right? And what happens is, after you are 40, when you're old and you no longer need it, now, in one day they can get rid of you, and then it's difficult because thanks God that your dad has the contacts and the ability to go for it. But when people all they left corporate, they don't know how to do too many things, right? And definitely doesn't have the skill to be an entrepreneur. So we can say that you managed to escape the corporate trap, right?
Yeah.
And then, but then you decide to do something which is very, very risky. It's not only to be an entrepreneur, it's to be a tech entrepreneur. One of the riskiest things in the world, more lucrative, but definitely risky. So do you thought it's true or not really?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. So I was working at the time, so I worked with that company that I joined for about 4.5 years, and I quickly was managing about half of the consulting practice, and I was taking on some of their hardest projects. And so I knew that I had the skills to be successful. And I saw a statistic just shortly before I finally pulled the trigger to leave, and the statistic was in that ecosystem, services businesses that were providing the services we were providing were on average growing at 24% a year. And so I thought, okay, there's an industry, there's a marketplace right now where this set of skills is so in demand that you're getting almost a guaranteed 24% return annually if you're just average. That seems like a really good opportunity. And I know that I'm above average because in my own company, I'm one of the top consultants and I'm producing these results. And so, man, if I'm above average, who knows how fast that company could grow? So that was one thing that gave me some certainty, but there were a couple other things. And I followed some frameworks that are pretty well published. Jeff Bezos talks about kind of the regret minimalization framework, and I went through that. And what I had to do so that it didn't seem so risky was I had to really understand the risk of staying in my own spot. See, it's easy to value the risk of the unknown, but it's hard to value the risk of the known. And so I started to put a price on that. And I said, if I stay here, I'm not going to increase my income or anything faster than X rate. So this is kind of the sure path. And if I look at that long-term path, I'm not happy with that path. And I don't think that's what I'm capable of. And so let's just say I quit, I start this business, and I fail. I have a year, at the time I had about a year's worth of expenses saved up, which is advice that I give people. I think if you don't manage your own personal finances very carefully, it's hard to take any risk in your career. So I managed my personal finances carefully so that I could take risks in my career. And so I said, all right, I've got a year's worth of expenses saved up, so I'll be fine for a year. And if at the end of the year I don't have traction, I'll just go get another job. And when I talked to recruiters, people were trying to recruit me for double the salary I was currently making at my job.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, my worst case scenario is I go out, I do this for a year, and then I get basically double my pay, maybe even more because I'll have more experience by then. And so I'll be back to where I started in 2 years. But I'll have the knowledge of what it was like to try to start a business for a year. And that's valuable to me. So my worst case scenario is really just to fail in a year, go back to working for someone else, get a much higher salary, and then break even in about a year. And so I think I had to be able to rationalize, and this is a big part of how I've been able to take successive risks with my business, is getting to the point where you can rationalize that the risk you're seeing is only part of the puzzle, and the risk you're often not seeing is the risk of not changing, not taking the opportunity, etc. And when you balance those out, I'm comfortable if I just have, a little bit of odds in my favor. I love playing poker. And one of the things I love about poker is that you only need to shift the odds a little bit in your favor over time to consistently win. You don't have to win 100% of the hands. You're going to lose a bunch of them. But if you can win 60% of your hands, I mean, you're in a very elite group at that point. So that's really all you need. You don't have to get rid of the risk. You just have to understand and balance it out to where the odds are, say, 60% in your favor, and then you keep moving.
And also the plan you said, like I said, definitely, the tech industry, Spencer, is one of the more lucrative, yeah. And in this podcast, for example, 5 steps how to make your first million unstoppable. 1 out of 5 people.
What are my 5 steps to make the first million?
1 out of 5 is tech entrepreneurs. So clearly, it's a lucrative industry, right? However, it's very, very risky. Yeah. So with the risk goes the reward. Yeah.
when you think about tech as an industry, it's extremely risky to try to be a software CEO, to build a software business. And so that lens of tech is very high risk. And in fact, I don't think most entrepreneurs should start there. I didn't start there. I likely will, in my next business, build a software business, but I will have the resources to do that more effectively. And we can talk about why, maybe, if it's interesting. But the thing is, there's a lot of opportunity around tech that doesn't require you to be a software business. So for us, we are a pure services business. Technically, we are building software in the background to help support us in what we do, but our offering is not software. And by being a service business, we're able to then use technology, be technology focused, get some of the money that is in a very lucrative domain, but we've grown on cash flow. We haven't had to take on any investment from the beginning. And so that allows us to be in a strong cash flow position and then have the money to invest in growth and in our own processes,
That's
system.
the best way to do it. That's the best way to do, is to offer a service and capitalize on those services, because like you said, rather than develop a software from scratch, it's a huge milestone, because and try to get this new software to market when nobody knows. Yeah. I think the other day somebody was talking to me and said, Harry, you don't know that they was sharing the story that there was one guy that wanted to do a video game, right? And he was doing the video game, and what happened, the video didn't work, and but in the backup of the video game, it was a software that it was sharing the way that they use the pictures in the games. Long story short, the game failed, but this software was sold to Yahoo, right, for a lot of money. And then the guy got back and I said, okay, now I have a lot of money, I'm gonna make the game. We went back to make the game. The game didn't work, and before everything got to collapse, he said to the investor, listen, the game is not gonna work that much, but we have this platform that we're sharing content and everything, and it's working really good inside. So let's put the rest of the money on this and let's see what happens. And the name of this platform was Slack. So imagine. So in tech, you never know. However, sometimes it's not the route that you think in your head that is gonna win, is what the clients want to buy, what the public wants to buy, how can we adapt ourselves to listen to our clients and don't put in a way what we want to do, but what they really want to pay, right? And I think the services that you provide help the companies to grow up and scale, right? Can you share a little bit more about this? How you guys can help tech companies?
Yeah, I mean, so most people are familiar with Salesforce.com. They've heard of it, right? It's the largest CRM
yes.
there. And so it's a very powerful tool, but it's a very specialized set of skills to really get the power out of it that you want. And so what we're doing in terms of helping customers make more money is there's a few ways you do that. Number one is your CRM is at the heart of your sales process. So your sales and marketing processes all tie to your CRM. If you want to be a great marketer, you need good data on your people, you need on your prospects, you need the ability to aggregate that data, run automations, interact with a marketing operations platform. And all that is built around the CRM. And so we have the expertise to help them use the tools that do that, whether that's Pardot, it's now called Marketing Cloud and Account Engagement, but these platforms that Salesforce sells to do that, we have the expertise to help them actually implement those and use them. Same thing on the sales process. Sales leader knows that they need a system, but they need help setting up any of the automation, the accountability reports, dashboards, et cetera, to make sure that their team's on track, the forecasting processes. So each business process around sales and marketing and growth in general usually ties back to the CRM. And if you have the ability to come in and automate those processes, make them operate faster, clearer, give better visibility into that data, make better business decisions based off of it, or bring best practices for the industry, that's something that's then highly valuable to these customers because it does allow them to skip steps and grow faster. On the other side, it can help you reduce costs. We see this a lot on the support side. Companies are trying to use automation and different strategies around their support systems to decrease the cost center that is support in most organizations. Or they're trying to replace mundane work. Something that's very cutting edge on the AI side is a lot of businesses are replacing their BDRs with AI agent BDRs. And so there's entire platforms to replace your BDRs with AI, assuming, at least in the United States, they have to have opted in to a form or something on your website saying you're allowed to call them. You can't just outbound call with this. So it doesn't fully replace BDRs yet, but it can replace a whole subset of that, right? So being able to use these tools that decrease your labor cost or decrease some of the other costs of the business, those are the two sides of making more money that we help our customers do, right? Helps grow faster, helps save on cost. And then, there's a lot of other just operational efficiencies we can drive with all the data integration work we do, connecting systems. Oftentimes companies have to use tens, if not hundreds of systems to get the job done. They want those systems to talk to each other and seamlessly flow between them. And so we provide that as well. So those are some of the ways of how we really create value for our clients.
Spencer, this is very important because depend on the size. Yeah, the other day I was talking with a friend of mine, right? Because there are these companies, right, that they are selling from 0 to 1 million. So these companies, they need to use free tools or tools that that give them certain flexibility. They cannot use tools that's very advanced because they cannot afford. And then we have these big companies selling over 100 million that they can afford Salesforce, they can afford Oracle, they can afford all the big toys out there, right? But then we have a gap between 1 million to 100 million, right? That these companies, they need more tailored solution to the problems, right? And there is, in my opinion, a big market, and I don't think that is well served, right? So what's your view in that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly see that. A lot of the companies we work with start out in maybe 10 to 20 million in revenue. They're smaller companies and they are trying to scale up. And that's really where you start to see things come into focus, because prior to maybe
they can afford a big software like Oracle and all these huge CRM so powerful. They can afford that. So they need a more tailored solution, right?
Yeah. So early on in your business, I mean, I could give a lot of advice about that 0 to maybe 1 million, that very early time of how do you just keep your costs as low as possible, which I believe in. And so you don't want to pay a bunch of consultants. You don't want to pay for expensive tools. You got to be really smart about where you're going to put what little resources you have to really drive the outcomes you want. And you need to be pretty scrappy with your systems to make sure that you're doing all the right things, but you're doing it with as little cost as possible. But what you want to be careful of is then that approach that will make you successful from 0 to 1 million, that then becomes something that will hold you back in the 1 to 5 million.
Absolutely.
And so what we usually see is that in that period, as companies start to mature, so there was a study done for the book Scaling Up, and what they found is that every time you triple in size or headcount, all the processes in your business break. And so that's usually the sort of triggering event that then gets people to talk to us and talk to a company like Salesforce is, all right, they're seeing that all their processes are breaking, and now when they rebuild them, they need to rebuild them ready to grow to the next level. So that's usually somewhere in that, like I said, 5 to 10 million range where they really start to see it. And then you need to start to lay the foundation. That means you don't want to do everything. You still don't have the money yet to really just go splurge on every tool Salesforce sells, or thousands of consulting hours. You got to know really what you're trying to get to. And so there's some clear benchmarks that, it varies a little bit by industry, but take SaaS, for example, where we do a lot of work. SaaS businesses in that range, they really need to just get a clear pipeline, really tight reporting and management of that pipeline. They're moving out of like a 1 or 2 seller model into a sales team. So they need structure around that. They need accountability. They need automations. They need, all these things that will help them sell at the level they need to sell. They usually are starting, if they're an investor-backed business, they're going to need certain MRR and different reporting metrics to feed up to the investors and the board. So there's these key thresholds that in order for them to hit, they need the system. But Salesforce or different companies will try to sell you everything and automate your quoting, automate your billing. You're not ready for a lot of that. You need to just do the thing that's high value that produces the result. and make sure you're doing it in a way where you can, bolt those additional solutions on when you get to that point of scale. And that's where having the right partner like us or another firm like us being able to help guide you through, look, let's bite off this where there's actually a business case. This will produce a good ROI. This is going to be too expensive. Or you just don't have a staff big enough to manage this. This might require 3 more full-time staff just to use this. You don't even have that today. So it's balancing out the right segment of functionality that can create the business ROI, and then taking that next step, letting the business grow, then layering on. And it's a back and forth to get that right. It's tricky, but that's the area we live in.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I said, I invest in tech, so I'm in the space, and I see the challenges, right? Also with the legacy, right? So there are companies out there that are using the softwares for the last 20 years, 30 years, and nobody wants to change the software. And the software has nothing to do with how we live today. They need cloud, they need fast speed. But to close that gap, this is again in this company range between zero to 100 million, but also even over 100 million. Was invited once to do a chat exactly that topic, how to close the gap without the legacy, right? And you can say oil companies, you can say law firms, you name it. There are a lot of companies out there that they do have the budget, right? But this education piece, and this is, like I said, in my opinion, this market is not well served. So if somebody comes with a tailored solution, right, it can make a huge difference in this company. And the staff can be trained, everybody can be trained. It's just to take the step and to hire the right people. But again, I agree with you, Spencer. It has to be company like yours that specialize on this, that they really know what they're doing, because otherwise it become a nightmare. Because for one side you have all these huge companies that they will try to sell you everything, no matter what, and you don't know, you will buy everything. And this has become really expensive. Even in my own company, we look at the system time to time because, my girlfriend, every AI that she sees, she like it, she buy it. You know what I mean? So when I have to constantly be checking what's going on because, tools are amazing, but for the first week. But after, do you really need them? And because it costs you mine when they are bigger. So the whole point is that if the companies are willing to move forward and take the step, companies like you, Spencer, can actually tailor the whole full 360 solution for them, especially in the safe funding. And this, in the long run, is gonna get them faster. And exactly what you say, right? Probably you're gonna help them, to build something, but then everything has to rebuild when there is again in revenue and headcount, right?
Yeah, we essentially have 2 jobs that we do for our customers. On the one hand, we need to help them identify, at the crux of the 2 jobs is the same question, which is the way you're doing this process producing a competitive advantage, or is it not? So if you have a way of doing business that is producing a competitive advantage, our job then becomes, we need to customize the software to empower you to do this better, faster, more effectively, as much as possible. And that means doing custom work in the software, even building fully custom solutions into Salesforce, because it is a platform with fully custom software development. So we'll do whatever it takes to drive that competitive advantage and make it as efficient as possible. The other side that can be as hard or even harder is if it's not creating a durable competitive advantage for your business, you need to change and adopt the best practice here that's already functioning out of the box, use the software as intended, and run your business the way most businesses run, because you're going to spend all this money customizing and it's going to produce no business return for you. And so we have a very specialized team of consultants where we train them not just on the technical skills, but on the human skills and the change management skills, because half our job is getting humans to do something different and embrace change, which is hard. Humans don't like change. And the other half of the job is building really compelling technical solutions that empower the business and make it thrive. And so it's a fun balance, but it's challenging because you gotta know which side of the equation you're on to do the right job. Sometimes the right job is to build it custom. Sometimes the right job is to tell the business, you should not build this under any circumstance, and don't do that.
Fantastic, Spencer. So what are the 5 steps to make the first million?
Okay, so I'm just going to give my 5 steps for how I did it, and hopefully that's helpful for the audience. I don't pretend to know for everyone, but I can share some insights from my journey. So the first step, in my opinion, is you need to acquire high-value specialized skills. And the reason I say specialized, I'm going to give a little story for each of these steps about my journey to hopefully drive the value here. So when I was just a college intern, I found myself quickly managing a team, and then I graduated, and right after my graduation, I was asked to lead the largest project that the firm I was working at had ever done. It was a $5 million implementation of Salesforce. And so I get flown out. I had to fly on site 5 days a week to do this big implementation of Salesforce. And I get into the room, and on the first day, they're announcing everyone. This is a huge digital transformation project for a multi-billion-dollar valued company. And so the whole executive team of the company's in the room. There's 6 different consulting firms in the room. And as they're going around, the management consultants start, hi, I'm Bob, and I have 30 years of experience. I helped Apple make the transition to this, and I worked with IBM when they did this. And all these people have credentials that are just staggering. And as it gets around, I'm just sitting there thinking, how am I in this room? I'm smart and I work hard and I know Salesforce, but why am I here? And what I found was, by the end of that project, took a couple years to implement, but by the end of that project, we were the only consultants left, and I was the one leading the whole project. Wow. And the reason was because I had the skills to build what they needed. A lot of those consultants were just coaching, they were mentoring, they were leaning on their experience, they were advising, but I could go build it in the tool that they had bought, and nobody else could. And my team could build it in the tool that they had bought. And so that was disproportionately valuable. So by the end of the project, I had a one-on-one relationship with the CFO of this company, being able to say, hey, look, this is what's going on in the project. This is what you need to know. And I had all this influence for one reason and one reason only. It wasn't because I was smart, wasn't because I deserved it. It was just because I had specialized skills that were disproportionately valuable that opened those doors. And so early in your career or early in your journey, getting a high-value specialized skill. You can have a specialized skill of weaving while you juggle. That may not be high value. So you got to know what's the market rate for the skill. For me, the skill of being a Salesforce consultant was very highly valued at the time, still is. And so high value, specialized, that gets you into rooms much earlier in life. And then it allows you to do the other thing on top of skills that really matters, which is build high value relationships. So if you have to look at those two things early in your career, you want to be building high value skills, high value relationships. Well, the skills open the door to the relationship because you have something to offer. So build the high value skill and use that to get the high value relationships. And while you're doing that, if it's a high value skill, you should be making enough money to save money. And so this is a lot for step 1, but step 1 is get the high value skill. And while you're getting paid a lot of money to do that skill, sock away a year's worth of expenses, because what that sets you up for is now you're not a slave. You can do whatever you want because you have money to fall back on, and you have a skill that's valuable. And ideally, you want 2 or 3 different skills, but you need at least one that's highly specialized. That's step 1. Okay.
Brilliant.
Step 2.
Love it.
Step 2 is now you need to understand who is your persona and what is their problem. And so this is base marketing stuff, but what all that anybody needs to know about this is before you decide to go start a business, you have to know what the avatar looks like, the person that's going to buy from you. And you got to know that they have a problem that you can solve. Like this is, even if you don't get deep into the marketing behind this, if you just want to take this from a pure gut level, instinctual level, it's just, I got to have a customer out there and they've got to have a problem I know how to solve. And if I'm really clear about that, it makes everything else about starting a business easy, because I know where I can think about where to find that person. I can tailor my messaging to that person. I can give examples and how-tos and content that show me solving the problem so that I'll be seen as an expert in that problem. All my efforts get clear if I just know who my persona is and what problem they have that is going to be valuable enough for me to solve. The other thing that this does, the reason this step is so important, is it allows me to get any kind of understanding of whether or not this business has high revenue potential or not. If my personal, like if my specialized skill is that I know how to wash a window, I can build a very successful business on washing windows. But if all I do is wash the windows, I got to figure out how much does it cost me to acquire customers because I got to pay someone else to do that. And then how much do I get paid to wash the window? And when I add that up and I start doing the math, and if I work 50 hours a week washing windows, making $20 an hour, the business opportunity is only so good. Like the math just turns out to only be so good. If I do all the sales myself, now the business opportunity could get better. Maybe I can hire other people to watch the windows. But I got to know that my skill translates to, a market opportunity that's worth it. So anyways, that's why it's important to think about this persona problem. And the second step is, if there's not someone who has a problem, who has the money to pay you, and it's going to make real money, then why are you starting a business? Doesn't make sense. So the third step is you've then got to go sell to that persona. So now you've got to go get your first customer and show that you can acquire that customer and solve their problem. And while you're doing that, you need to keep your personal expenses as tight as possible. Just like you did while you were working and earning money, now you keep your personal expenses as tight as possible so that even though you have a customer, you don't spend that money. Money gets saved for taxes, gets saved for reinvestment in the business. I'm still living off my own money, so I can start to get the business into a good spot. I'm not desperate for a customer. I'm not, getting into bad situations or forcing the issue. I'm going after my persona, and I'm offering that and proving out the business model by selling to that person. So third step is to get your first customer and to keep your personal expenses low during that. And once you then repeat that process, now you have a small business, and that business will be as big. Again, the math is very simple. You can figure out how much you can charge. And then you know that if you are fully busy in that business, there's a max threshold. So for me, when I started my business, the max threshold for my business was about $350,000 a year is what I was going to make by myself, not hiring anybody, because I was going to take some time off, I was going to have to spend some time selling, and then I was going to be able to get paid for a certain amount of work, and I was going to add up to about $350,000. And so then the question is that what I want? Because maybe you just stop there. If you love being an independent contractor, that quality of life is great, et cetera, that's fine. But for me, that's not $1 million, and this is 5 steps to get to $1 million. And so I want more than that. There's a lot of reasons to grow a team beyond just making money, but that's where step 4 comes in, which is now it's time to build a small team. Most businesses, again, this will vary depending on what the max value of an individual contributor. In my business, a high performing individual contributor is somewhere in the like 275 to 375 a year of revenue. So if I want $1 million business, I need a team of at least 4 or 5 people when you account for time off and everything else, a small team is enough to produce $1 million plus in revenue.
Yeah.
In some industries, you might need 9 people to produce $1 million. So tailor it to your industry, but you should know you should not need more than 1 team in almost any industry to produce $1 million in revenue. So you should be able to build 1 team, no extra management hierarchy, no complex logistics or operations. Just I'm running a team, I'm doing all the sales, they're doing the delivery. That makes me my first $1 million. So that's step 4 is now building that small team. And I highly recommend, as you're building that small team, leaning first on offshore talent where you can and outsourcing what you can, and then being conscious about where you're going to bring the onshore costs in terms of what that team structure is. For us, I had a few onshore consultants and I had 2 or 3 offshore consultants, and that all together was enough to produce in year 2 $1.2 million in revenue. And that was, what our first little small team looked like that produced for $1 million. And then the 5th step is now your focus is to master a single sales or marketing channel. So you've got enough traction, you've built a small team, you've already had to get some progress in at least one channel. Now you're going to master it, because any channel should be able to produce more than just $1 million in revenue. So you're not going to start doing shiny object syndrome. Let me sell here, let me sell there, let me market 10 different ways. It's just, I still have this same persona, same problem. How do I get way more of these people? Because I need to create so much demand that then I can start to actually scale up the business. So you've got your persona tight, you've got your problem clear, and now you're just nailing your promotion. And that's really your full-time job as the founder, in addition to the finances, hiring, firing, all that good stuff. But your full-time job is really a sales job. To master that sales and or marketing channel, you want to have several times more leads than you can even service, so that then you're in a position to start taking the step of really scaling the business up. But you're still in startup mode. 0 to $1 million is just startup mode. And then once you get through the startup period, life starts to get really good when you get into more of the scale up part of the business. And that's where you can also earn a little more money, maybe ease up some of the tightness on your personal finances. Still don't want to go crazy, but life gets much better. You're not working the 16 hours a day, 6 days a week like I was for the first year and a half during that startup phase. Now you can actually work a more reasonable set of hours, build a high quality team. Then you start thinking about building processes, everything else out. So anyways, but that's step 5. That's all beyond step 5. Step 5 is really just mastering that channel and starting to milk it.
Spencer, something that you shared with us that is really key in the things that you did. And I think that some entrepreneurs out there can have this as a role model, is how you strategically plan, right? To make sure that you are going to be, you're going to start your journey as an entrepreneur, right? But to make sure that the finance are in place, that you don't do anything crazy, that you have a plan B if it doesn't work. You took all these precautions before going to business. And this is amazing. I think that we have a lot of entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs and not tech entrepreneurs, right? That they go, oh, I want to start a business, yeah? And a little bit of naivety, a little bit of lack of understanding what they're jumping in, right? Sometime after 6 months, they are in a big stress and they are, oh my God, I didn't know that this was so difficult and it's gonna take so longer and now I need resources. So and then they become in the desperate situation. They need to find a job, or they have to do something or to close the business down because what we call it the caution, right? The plan, it hasn't, no all the risk has been taken into consideration. We're not expecting all the entrepreneurs to know the risk that's gonna come. This is impossible for open a business. But would be fair to say, Spencer, that prepare for battle is go to a battle prepare is a good way to go to battle, right?
I would agree with that entirely. I mean, for me, both my business finances and my personal finances, I've always managed very conservatively. And I tell people, if you are interested in, so let's say that you have a high value skill, but you want the perception of stability. I'm not going to call it true stability, but the perception of stability. You should be an employee. You can make a lot of money. Even at my company, my employees make really good money to be great employees, and they get a lot of stability, they get a lot of benefits, a lot of things that come with that. And that's the right role for the person who has a specialized set of skills and can go deliver that and doesn't want the volatility and doesn't want to take on the ownership of the client relationship. Absolutely. What shifts to then being an entrepreneur is I have the ability to deliver, but I also have the ability to sell and to own the client relationship and all the volatility and risk that comes with that. And so if I'm willing to bite that off, I should be an entrepreneur. But then I distinguish between being an entrepreneur and being a salesperson. To be an entrepreneur, I think you have to, well, you don't have to, because I know people that don't, but I recommend that to be an entrepreneur, you have very conservative management of your personal expenses and finances. If you just want to make a lot of money and spend it all, you should be a salesperson. Because as a salesperson, you have the most earning potential in most organizations, even more in many cases, at least in terms of liquid cash, than a lot of business owners. So depending on the business you're in, your top salesperson might be making more than the owner in that company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So if you just want to make lots of money to spend it, sales is a great career because you're taking on half of it. You don't have to own all the operations delivery. You don't have to own the risk, but you get a lot of the upside. So to me, the entrepreneur sits between, it's the combination of the skilled operator and the skilled salesperson. And it's saying I can pull from both these and take on all that risk. And so that means I'm going to manage my finances really conservatively and carefully to give myself maximum flexibility to maneuver and make good decisions, keep myself away from being under duress. But I'm going to have to develop the skill set of the sales side. Sometimes I see people that want to be entrepreneurs, but they don't want to sell. And that's like wanting to be a cowboy, but not ride a horse. I mean, it's just, it doesn't work.
To be an entrepreneur and they don't like sales. That doesn't work. Yeah.
It's a full-time sales job, at least at the start.
Absolutely.
And continue. So
Spencer, if somebody listens to this podcast and is in this situation, the company is turning over between 1 million to 100 million, and they have this problem that we talk about with legacy, and they want to get some education or some alternative that you guys can offer them, can you share with us how they can find you guys and how the process works?
Yeah, so if they wanted some help from us, the best way to reach out to us is to go to our website, which is right here, solvd.cloud. So that's our website. You go there, you can fill out a form, and we'll reach right out to you. They can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's one of the few places I'm really active. Right. So those are probably the best options in terms of just getting in contact. And then in terms of how we work, you don't pay us for anything up front. We sit down with you and look at what your needs are, put together a proposal, build a business case, say like, does this actually make sense? And if it does, then we'd help you from that point forward. And really the things you would reach out to us specifically is if you're a customer of Salesforce and you need help with pretty much any of the products that Salesforce sells, we help with all of those problems. So you're either already a customer of Salesforce and you need help with the platform, or you are considering being a customer of Salesforce and you'd like some advice around purchasing Salesforce and all that. That's the first area. The second area that we help customers with is in generative AI. And we offer something called an AI readiness assessment. And so that's the other thing that people could reach out to us for, which is we will come in and we will do a paid engagement to diagram your business processes. So we will map out what your processes are today. And then we will do an AI readiness assessment to say, here's what best-in-class AI tools are in these areas and how they could fit into your processes and what we think the value or return on that would be for you. And so there's a lot of noise in AI. There's a lot of like hype. And so the reality is there's a subset of use cases where AI makes a lot of sense right now for business. It's highly valuable. Things like if you're not already using one of the various meeting recording tools to record, transcribe, and archive all your meetings, you should be doing that immediately, because what that allows you to do in the future, after you have, say, a year of archives of that, is to use that data to build your own models to then use AI in your business to act on your behalf or act with your customers. There's a lot of things, but you got to have the data. AI requires data as an input. And so one of those inputs that is very low cost that everyone should be doing is recording all of their meetings, right? So that's a simple recommendation that you can have for free, but there's a lot more in terms of for your type of support organization, what does best-in-class AI look like? For your type of sales organization, how are companies using AI to get ahead there? And so those are the things we try to speak to, so that entrepreneurs that understandably are a little scared about, are we behind on AI, or are we doing too much? Are we like, where do I focus? What is the opportunity? What is valuable versus just noise? Because there's a ton of widgets and stuff that are just noise. And so we try to help answer that question for entrepreneurs.
That's fantastic, Spencer. Thank you so much, Spencer, for the interview. We know your time is very valuable. And for all of you that are following the podcast, if you want to take the sales and marketing to the next level and you want to have the ultimate tool that will allow that to happen, we have Spencer here that can definitely help you guys, and if it's not pointing you in the right direction. Thank you so much once again, Spencer. And for all of you listening the podcast and in Apple and Spotify, or follow us in the social media, see you in our next episode, how brave entrepreneurs like Spencer break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.